OCN Volume 26 Number 1, January 3, 2026. This podcast presents the audio versions of the articles and columns in this issue of OCN in the order they appeared in the paper. For details, please refer to the articles and columns, which are posted at ocn.me. Palmer Lake Board of Trustees, December 2, 11, Beltran appointed, Caves, Krob, and Boyett resign. By James Howell and Jackie Burr-Hans. The Palmer Lake Board of Trustees, PLBOT, held a workshop meeting on December 2 to interview candidates to fill the board seat vacated by Amy Hudson's resignation. At a special meeting following the workshop, Tony Beltran was appointed to replace Hudson. At a nearly 7-hour meeting on December 11, Trustee Tim Caves and Town Attorney Scott Krob read their letters of resignation. The board voted to settle a lawsuit with Integrity Matters but tried and failed to decide how to interpret the annexation ordinance passed earlier in the year on the issue of the timing for the annexation election that the ordinance put in place. The board voted to amend its 2025 budget, approve its budget for 2026, and appropriate the required funds, but not without concerns raised by Trustee Roger Mosley. The board also voted to separate the water fund into a water operating fund and a water capital fund. On December 12, Trustee Mike Boyett resigned. Beltran interviewed and appointed. Mayor Dennis Stern opened the workshop intending to interview two candidates for the vacant board seat, Tony Beltran and Catherine Keeley. Keeley did not attend the workshop, so only Beltran was interviewed. The board asked Beltran a list of questions like those asked of other recent candidates for board seats. In his opening statement, Beltran said his focus was on growth, tax revenue, and the town's natural resources. His experience as an airline pilot for Frontier Airlines led him to believe that serving the traveling public mirrors government service, Beltran said. He mentioned that he holds 2 college degrees in aviation. Beltran said he was motivated by a sense of civic duty and a desire to serve the community. In response to a question from Trustee Beth Harris, he said rebuilding public trust in the board, managing ecological resources, and planning for economic development were his top issues. Preserving small-town values was also important, Beltran said. Public comments were not taken at the workshop. Note, Beltran's interview is on the town's website here, https://tinyurl.com/3tftcucn. At the special meeting following the workshop, Stern noted that the candidate appointed would serve until the next coordinated election, which will be held in November 2026. He opened the meeting to questions from the public. Local homebuilder Kurt Earhart recounted his experience trying to build a Dollar General store within the town limits, which included him and his family being attacked on social media. He said the board needed to learn to compromise and asked what if Bucky struck a deal with El Paso County and the town received no revenue from the travel center. Resident Kevin Dreyer, who was recently recalled from a seat on the board, faulted the board for being biased against the proposed travel center and for lacking transparency in its conversations. Bill Bass, who served a term as mayor and was previously interviewed for the vacant board seat, sought to correct an impression that he was unfamiliar with the town's master plan. He said when he was mayor, he and the board did a lot of work to update the master plan. Town Clerk Erica Romero, who is responsible for coordinating the town's special elections, recommended that the board make an appointment that night rather than using an election to fill the vacant seat, pointing out that the last special election had cost the town about $26,000, not including staff time and resources. Another special election might require temporary staff to be hired, Romero said. She pointed out that an appointment would restore the board to full status immediately. Mosley pointed out that a recall of Caves was underway and suggested Caves should resign. Harris moved to appoint Beltran. The motion passed with Boyett, Caves, Harris, Trustee 8S Jerka and Stern voting in favor. Mosley voted no. Caves resigns. At the December 11 meeting, the board considered Resolution 73/2025, which sets out the details of the special election to recall Caves. Romero said the petition to recall Caves had been submitted on November 12, the signatures had been verified on November 17, and no protests had been filed, requiring the board to set a date for a special election to complete the recall. The resolution passed unanimously, setting the election date for March 10. Caves took the opportunity in the board report's agenda item to address the people of Palmer Lake. Saying he had worked to ensure fiscal responsibility, create community, an advocate for the creation of a conservation easement at Lakeview Heights. He said his service had been guided by stewardship and a sincere desire to protect the character of the town. He said that a small group was steering Palmer Lake toward fiscal instability and relied on personal attacks and recalls rather than engaging in honest debate. Cave said the town was being led away from a revenue opportunity that was not about luxuries but about the fundamentals that safeguard Palmer Lake and its way of life. He said he was called to serve where knowledge is respected and truth is not twisted, and in the current climate, such service was no longer possible, so he resigned, effective December 12. He thanked those who supported him and his wife, Lori, for being by his side. Note: Cave's complete statement on his resignation is on the town's website here, https://tinyurl.com/5d3ktvap. Town Attorney Scott Krob resigns. The December 11 meeting was slated to end with an executive to discuss the town's position in connection with the legal representation provided by Krob Law Office LLC. Mosley said the resolutions was about the firm, not about town attorney Scott Krob directly. Krob noted that he had received 9 complaints and wished to discuss the issue in public rather than in an executive session, which was his right to request. Krob noted that he had asked Mosley for clarification on some of the complaints but had never received a response. He said that this discussion concerned the termination of the town attorney and that the town code had provisions governing the appointment and removal of town officers. He noted that any officer may be removed for cause by a vote of 4 current trustees, but that there could be no removal without a charge in writing and an opportunity for a hearing. Krob said if the trustees were to decide on the matter, they should know who he was professionally. He noted that there was a representation agreement between the town and his firm since 2019 and that the current hourly rate of $175 was 60% of his firm's rate for private clients. He reviewed his resume, saying he had graduated from Colorado College and then Duke Law School in 1980, when he began his practice. He was appointed as the youngest county judge in 1983 and has extensive experience as a municipal attorney with 40 years as a member of the Colorado Municipal League, CML, attorney section and serves on the amicus committee that decides whether to get involved in legislation that affects municipalities. He also has extensive experience in water law, serving as a water referee for the Colorado Division of Water Resources Division 6, and is experienced in water litigation and water rights, serving cities such as Evans, Cortez, Thornton, Grand Lake, Granby, and the state of Wyoming. Krob said his legal practice seeks to find clients it meshes with and establish long-term relationships. Citing 30-plus-year relationships with the towns of Granby and Grand Lake and the Upper Big Sandy Water District, whose aquifers sit above the Denver Basin aquifers that serve Palmer Lake, he said there is a benefit to having a historical perspective. He is also a trained mediator and has been an adjunct professor on legal ethics, he said, providing ethics codes and codes of conduct to the PLBOT, which he said the board needed since it was dysfunctional. Krob responded to the 9 complaints including concerns about the budget, communication about the indictment of his son Matt, rubber stamp votes on traffic, water, and fiscal impact reports paid for by Buc-ee's. And on the United Congregational Church, UCC, disconnecting from the town, allowing open meetings violations at the December 12, 2024 meeting, inserting language in the master plan to allow trustees to make exceptions, failure to advise about the improper appointment of Dennis Stern as mayor, and his advice about the interpretation of the initiated ordinance on a public vote on annexations. Noting that Mosley had come up to him after a meeting and said that he appreciated that Krob always acted professionally, he said he could not return the compliment. He said that Mosley's conduct, both off and on the board, created problems as an individual and even more so as a trustee. Noting that Mosley had asked him to be fired and saying that he could ask that Mosley resign, Krob instead asked that Mosley be a good trustee and use his energy positively. He closed by reading a document tendering his resignation, saying that representing the town had been an interesting adventure and that his goal had always been to pursue the best interest of the town as directed by the board. He offered to continue to provide legal advice until they replaced him during the transition. Stern asked if the board had the option of refusing to accept Krob's resignation. Krob said it did not. Note: Krob's statement regarding his resignation is on the town's website here, https://tinyurl.com/3was2c85. Mosley came off the dais to give a public comment expressing surprise at Krob's resignation and reiterating some of his concerns. He said he didn't think Krob was bad or evil but that he sometimes had given the board bad advice or missed the point, which resulted in turmoil the town does not need. Integrity Matters lawsuit settled. Earlier in the meeting, Before his resignation, Krob gave the board an update on the lawsuit that Integrity Matters, IM, had brought against the town. That lawsuit had been dismissed, Krob said, and following the dismissal, the Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency, CIRSA, which insures the town and was involved in trying the suit, sued IM to recover $32,000 in legal costs. Krob said IM had offered to waive its right to appeal the dismissal in return for CIRSA dropping its request to recover its legal costs for participating in the lawsuit. Following a discussion by the board members and residents, Caves moved to refuse to settle, arguing the town had plenty of time to continue the suit. His motion failed. Harris then moved to accept IM's offer to waive its right of appeal in return for CIRSA dropping its request to recover legal costs, with Beltran, Harris, Jerka and Mosley voting in favor and Boyett, Cave and Stern voting against. Board fails to decide timing of annexation elections. Since the Palmer Lake voters approved an initiated ordinance requiring all annexations to be approved or denied in a special election, the board has struggled with the question of when the special election should be held, some arguing the voters should weigh in early in the annexation process and others arguing the vote should take place only after all the details of the annexation, including zoning, have been decided. At the December 11 meeting, the board returned to this question. Krob told the board he believed the election should be held after the eligibility hearing or after the details of the annexation agreement had been decided. Stern said the board had been unable to decide this question and suggested the board seek a declaratory judgment, in effect asking a court to make the call. Krob agreed that was an option to decide the timing of the annexation election. Mosley said he was still opposed to having the election in the middle of things. Resident Martha Brodzik argued the current laws require the election to be the last step once the voters know what they are voting on. Following a lengthy discussion of this issue by board members, Palmer Lake residents, and other interested parties, Stern moved to direct Krob to put the question to a court for a declaratory judgment to decide what the annexation ordinance means. The motion passed, with Beltran, Boyett, Caves, Mosley, and Stern voting yes and Harris and Jerka voting no. 2025 budget amended, 2026 budget approved. Interim Town Administrator Glenn Smith presented Resolution 70/2025, which amends the 2025 budget. Management Specialist Christy Birkeland said the only change is to the property tax line, which needed to be reduced because the state is not providing funds to backfill property taxes as expected. Mosley said the amended budget was missing $64,000, and that the Water Enterprise Fund is not appropriated money. Birkeland said she was not prepared to address the question of the allegedly missing funds. Krob said using the term appropriated funds was not a problem. The board passed the resolution with the stipulation that any mistakes would be corrected. The board also passed Ordinance 07-2025, which adopts the 2026 budget and appropriates the required funds, and Resolution 71/2025, which certifies the town's mill levies. The board voted unanimously to approve Resolution 72/205, which changes the management of water funds to generate increased interest income. Excess funds from the current water checking account at Community Banks of Colorado will be transferred to a water reserve account and a water capital reserve account at Colatrust to earn more interest and meet target balances. The analysis of the changes included in the meeting packet anticipates an additional $17,128 in income expected from the changes. Boyett resigns. On December 12, the next day after the board meeting, Boyett resigned from the board, citing health concerns resulting from the stress of serving as a trustee. Note, his resignation letter can be found on the town's website here, https://tinyurl.com/2s4dxbr. The next regular board meetings are scheduled for January 8 and 22. See the town's website at www.townofpalmerlake.com to confirm times and dates of board meetings and workshops. Meetings are typically held on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month at the Town Hall. Information, 719-481-2953. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Monument Planning Commission, December 10. Commissioners recommend approval of 2026 zoning map, show appreciation for outgoing members. By Janet Sellers. The Monument Planning Commission held its final meeting of the year on December 10 and unanimously recommended approval of the town's 2026 official zoning map following a brief presentation from staff and a public hearing with no citizen comments. With Commissioner Kathy Green absent, alternate Commissioner Valerie Baumer was seated as a voting member for the evening. The commissioners first approved the minutes from the previous meeting before turning to the night's primary agenda item, the annual adoption of the zoning map required under the Monument Municipal Code. Planning Director Dan Ungerleider presented the map, noting that it incorporates all annexations, rezonings, subdivisions, and boundary changes approved over the past year. He credited town GIS specialist Connie Dreger for maintaining the town's mapping system, which he said supports decision-making and public access to information. The map is expected to go before the Town Council for approval on January 5. No members of the public offered comments in person or online during the hearing. The commissioners raised a few questions, including clarification on the recently completed annexation of portions of Old Denver Road and whether future comprehensive plan updates may prompt zoning modifications. Ungerleider said the annexation ensures clearer maintenance responsibility and may support future incorporation requests. He added that development applications and annexations may continue to drive incremental map changes over time. The meeting also included discussion of commission appointments and upcoming schedules. One longtime commissioner, Danny Hours, formally explained his decision to resign a year early to serve on the town's new Economic Development Committee, citing the need to give any of the upcoming new commissioners time to understand and participate in the ongoing comprehensive plan and anticipated code updates. Commissioners also acknowledged Green's departure and expressed appreciation for both outgoing members' service. The town will finalize the 2026 Planning Commission roster in January, and a schedule of 2026 meeting dates has been provided to members, including a joint Town Council Planning Commission session planned for January 14. The meeting adjourned following approval of the motion to close. Recruitment continues for 2 alternate commission positions and 1 full commission seat. Commissioners Green and Hours will step down at year-end, with a farewell reception planned. The Commission advises the Town Council on land use and development issues. The Commission's recommendations are based on local and state laws, zoning, and municipal codes. The Planning Commission usually meets on the second Wednesday of each month. The next meeting is scheduled for January 14. For further information on Commission meetings, please visit www.townofmonument.org/263/Planning Commission Commission Board of Adjustment or contact 719-884-8028. A recording with a transcript of each meeting is also available. Janet Sellers can be reached at janetsellers@ocn.me. Monument Town Council, December 1 and 15. Council considers a variety of requests. By Marlene Brown. On December 1, the Monument Town Council, MTC, discussed issues ranging from the budget to new development proposals and community engagement initiatives, setting the stage for an agenda focused on fiscal planning, infrastructure, and resident concerns. Mayor Mitch LaKind emphasized the importance of transparent governance and active participation by council members and the public. Dan Ungerleider, Director of Planning, explained that approval was sought for the Santa Fe Business Park Final Planned Unit Development, PUD. The site is near the northeast corner of Baptist Road and Old Denver Road and sits on 10 acres. Plans are to build 6 buildings for industrial, office, and warehouse space. Several concerns were discussed during the hearing, including building code heights and square footage, and bay and dock openings. A motion was made to continue the public hearing to the January 5 regular MTC meeting, giving the applicant more time to address the issues. The vote was unanimous to approve the continuance. The Planning Department is continuing to update the Land and Building Code, including accessory dwelling units, ADU. The state requires in House Bill 24-1152 that local governments define ADU according to specific development standards. A motion for approval of Ordinance 23/2025 regarding wording for ADUs was made and approved unanimously. Several other ordinances were passed regarding building codes. For more information, see townofmonument.org/planning-department. Other topics discussed were the state-required second restated 2025 budget. The first one was in June 2025, and the second one was due December 31. Finance Director Jennifer Phillips presented a breakdown of anticipated 2026 revenues and expenditures, highlighting key areas such as public safety, road maintenance, and parks and recreation. Council members raised questions about the allocation for emergency services, seeking assurance that the police and fire departments would receive adequate funding to meet the town's growing needs. Infrastructure improvement was another significant focus. The council reviewed a proposal to upgrade several major roads and intersections to improve traffic flow and pedestrian safety. Representatives from the Public Works Department provided an update on ongoing projects, including the installation of new traffic signals and sidewalk repairs. Community members attending the meeting expressed support for these initiatives but voiced concerns about construction timelines and potential disruptions. The council agreed to provide regular progress reports and to prioritize work near schools and high-traffic areas. The council voted to approve the budget, with a commitment to review spending mid-year to address any unforeseen expenses for 2026. Land development and zoning changes were addressed as developers presented plans for a new residential community along the west side of Old Denver Road. Council members asked detailed questions about the environmental impact, housing affordability, and infrastructure support needed for the proposed development. Several residents expressed concerns about increased traffic and the preservation of natural spaces. The council voted to table the proposal for further study, requesting additional information from developers and scheduling a public forum to gather more feedback from the community. The council also considered updates to local ordinances, including revisions to noise regulations and short-term rental policies. These changes were prompted by increased complaints from residents regarding disturbances and the growing popularity of vacation rentals in Monument. After discussion, the council approved stricter enforcement measures and set guidelines for rental property owners to ensure compliance with town standards. During the public comment period, residents raised issues such as snow removal, downtown parking, and support for local businesses during the holiday season. The council acknowledged these concerns and discussed strategies to improve municipal services, including enhanced communication with residents and partnerships with local organizations. Mayor LaKind encouraged ongoing community involvement and invited residents to participate in upcoming town events and volunteer opportunities. Council members reflected on the progress made throughout the year and shared their goals for 2026, emphasizing collaboration, fiscal responsibility, and a commitment to quality of life for Monument residents. Decisions made during the session set the stage for continued growth and improvement in the coming year. The council moved into executive session to discuss with the town attorney the details regarding the intergovernmental agreement establishing the Loop Water Authority, LWA. Upon returning, LaKind asked the council for a motion to pay the LWA invoice. The expense was allocated as part of the 2025 budget. The council voted unanimously to approve the payment. December 15th meeting. At the December 15th meeting, the MTC addressed several critical matters. Local officials and residents discussed ongoing projects and new proposals that ensure that Monument continues to thrive as it grows. Public comment was encouraged, with several residents voicing their support or concerns regarding local initiatives. The council reaffirmed its commitment to transparency and open communication, urging citizens to remain engaged in municipal affairs. Development proposal. Meritage Homes asked to replat the approved Connexus Phase 2 and 3 preliminary PUD plan to the Connexus Lot 2 final PUD plan. The council reviewed progress on several ongoing infrastructure projects, including road improvements, water system upgrades, and enhancements to public spaces. Updates were provided on construction timelines, funding sources, and anticipated community benefits. New development proposals were introduced, with discussions focusing on zoning regulations, environmental impact assessments, and public input sessions. The council emphasized the need to balance growth with the preservation of Monument's small-town character. It voted to approve the final planned unit development for Connexus Filing No. 4, replacing and replatting Connexus Filing No. 2 Lot 2 for Meritage Homes. Public safety and emergency preparedness. Public safety was another key topic, as the police chief and fire department representatives presented reports on recent activities and outlined future initiatives. Council members commended first responders for their dedication and discussed strategies for enhancing community safety, such as improved emergency communication systems and disaster preparedness plans. The meeting also addressed the importance of neighborhood watch programs and community engagement in crime prevention efforts. Environmental initiatives and sustainability efforts. The council reaffirmed its commitment to environmental stewardship by discussing current and future sustainability initiatives. Topics included the expansion of recycling programs, the adoption of energy-efficient technologies, and partnerships with local organizations to promote conservation. Residents were encouraged to participate in upcoming tree planting events and educational workshops aimed at fostering environmental awareness. As the meeting concluded, council members summarized the key decisions made and outlined action items for the coming months. Corrections. 2 corrections are needed to the Monument Town Council article that ran starting on page 6 of the December 6 issue of our Community News. First, the water utility franchise fee restatement is an internal accounting entry and does not affect residents' bills. Second, the Town of Monument HR Director's name is Emily Trujillo, not Laura. OCN regrets the errors. Regular meetings are typically held on the first and third Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the Town Hall located at 645 Beacon Light Road, Monument 80132. If the meeting falls on a holiday, the meeting will be held the following Tuesday. Marlene Brown can be reached at marlenebrown@ocn.me. Lewis Palmer D38 Board of Education, December 2nd and 15th, Officers Elected, Recognitions, Approval of Annual Mill Levy. By Harriet Halbig. The Lewis Palmer D38 Board of Education held a special meeting on the morning of December 2nd to elect officers, swear oaths of office, and sign affidavits of confidentiality. Dr. Patty Schenk, former board secretary, was elected to serve as chairman pro tem for the meeting. Former board treasurer Ron Schwartz was elected president. Schenk was nominated and elected vice president. New member Tim Bennett was appointed treasurer, and new member Ginger Schaaf was appointed secretary. Todd Brown will serve as a director. Bennett and Schaaf were sworn in. Chief Business Officer Brett Ridgway will serve as assistant treasurer and Vicky Wood will serve as assistant secretary. All members signed affidavits of confidentiality. Following the brief meeting was a board retreat. Regular meeting, December 15th. Before the regular meeting was an executive session to discuss safety and security procedures. District schools were closed on Tuesday, December 16th, due to an unspecified threat to district property. In response to the threat, district school resource officers and the security team worked with local law enforcement to share any useful information. Staff worked remotely on that day. Schools reopened the following day. Recognitions. Several District 38 students were selected to participate in the All-State Choir. They are: from Lewis Palmer High School, Gavin Hawk, Lilia Ariano, Linda Gachuki, Finn Clark, Jonathan Lilly, and Linda Reyes. From Palmer Ridge High School, Wynn Ciankowski, Benton Miles, Cruz Sloan, and Ruby Taylor. From Lewis Palmer Middle School, Stella Boyd, Adhya Mohan, and McKay Peterson. These students will participate in the Colorado All-State Choir in Denver in February. They performed a brief holiday selection. Staff and student recognition were given to Lewis Palmer High School, LPHS, physical education instructor Jackie Schatz for her receipt of the SHAPE, Society of Health and Physical Education of Colorado, APE, Adaptive Physical Education, Teacher of the Year. 3 students, Chloe Jarrell, Molly Schatz, and Chase Gavin, also received awards from the organization. Staff recognition. Industrial technology instructor Andy Vries of Lewis Palmer High School was awarded a $10,000 grant from Harbor Freight Tools for Schools. Vries received a $50,000 award from Harbor Freight in 2023 in acknowledgement of his teaching excellence and for elevating career and technical education. He gave a brief statement about his activities. Lewis Palmer High School student representatives Gabby Zimmerman and Alay Clark spoke of activities at their school, including the annual Harvest of Love and the upcoming Snowball. Student representatives may participate in board discussions and ask questions but may not vote. Board Priority 3, Valuing Our People. District Human Resources Director Michaela Vanderheiden and Chief Business Officer Brett Ridgway updated the board on progress in achieving goals in reference to results of staff surveys into such areas as staff retention, acknowledgement for good work, and open and honest communication. Some actions in support of staff retention include conducting 30-day and 90-day stay interviews, listening tours, and employee experience and district services surveys. In support of improving the level of acknowledgement, a recognition program will be established within each school or department, and all employees will be provided with meaningful and growth-producing feedback, Vanderheiden said. The annual evaluation experience will be improved with the addition of clear timelines, training for supervisors, and other guidance. In support of improved open and honest communication, the Staff Collaboration Committee will continue to meet, sharing notes with school and department leaders, gathering feedback from schools and departments, and members will bring back takeaways from their constituencies. Referring to survey results, Ridgway showed charts of levels of participation by school and department and responses organized by question. Some strong points were that individuals believe their work positively impacts those they serve, that they have a strong understanding of their expectations, that leaders in the immediate work environment are genuinely concerned about their welfare, and that they feel a sense of pride when they tell people where they work. Lowest scoring questions include seeing progress being made to create a culture of success for employees across the district, feeling that district culture supports open and honest communication, and feeling that district-level resources are allocated to maximize effectiveness across the organization. Improvements sought include providing better compensation, increasing transparency around the budget, and improving how resources are allocated. Board Priority 5, Fiscal Stewardship. Director of Finance Ron Sprins spoke about supporting fiscal stewardship in the district. He works with a team that includes principals, the manager of maintenance, analysts, and Ridgway. Goals include improving overall financial results, such as operating within the window of spending 98 to 100% of the budget, and continuing to engage with the Financial Transparency Committee, the Staff Collaboration Committee, and the district leadership team. In progress is an effort to monitor class sizes. A second goal is to increase payroll and processing accuracy to 99.99%. Sprins acknowledges that time sheets are sometimes written by hand, and sometimes the individual who reviews them is on leave or ill. In response, the district has hired a part-time employee as payroll specialist. Monthly balance sheet account reconciliations are designed to ensure accurate and timely reporting, and tracking reports will be distributed and reviewed with department and school leaders. Financial planning and analysis. Ridgway provided detailed information to board members ahead of time to include enrollment figures, recommended courses of action, and data in support of approving an authorization of partnership with Eastern Colorado Bank. Regarding approval of a partnership with Eastern Colorado Bank, Ridgway explained that it is useful to have a partnership with an institution that can support district needs for capital lease financing. Other local banks have been approached and declined to participate. The district has approved only the opening of a deposit account. Other account types must be approved separately. The board approved the partnership with Eastern Colorado Bank. Policy actions. Executive Director of Student Services Rick Frampton presented revisions to policies involving tobacco-free schools and student activities funds. The tobacco-free schools policy defines tobacco as any product that contains nicotine or tobacco or is derived from tobacco and intended to be ingested, inhaled, or applied to the skin or an electronic device that delivers nicotine. The policy specifies schools as school property, including stadiums, school-sponsored activities off campus, and school vehicles. The policy defines disciplinary actions for students and staff. The board approved the policy. A policy addressing student activities funds requires that each activity have a separate deposit account administered by the district as part of the total fiscal operation. The funds are to be used to finance a program of authorized school activities. Funds derived from the student body as a whole must be used to benefit the entire student body. Funds derived from clubs and organizations must be used to benefit those specific groups. Approval of annual property tax mill levy. Ridgway explained that the mill levy is a process by which the district levies taxes to generate funds required by the Colorado School Finance Act and collect override revenue and bond repayment revenue. The assessed value in property in the district has exceeded $1 billion for the first time. Ridgway stressed that this is the assessed value, not resale value. The mill levy for the tax year 2025 is 6 mills. Note: to view the presentation on this subject, please see Board Docs under the Board of Education tab on lewisbaumer.org. Changes in meeting dates. Board President Ron Schwartz proposed that the date of the January 2026 board meeting be changed to January 26 from January 20th. This is to accommodate the January 19 Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. He also proposed that the February meeting on the 17th be cancelled in favor of a single meeting on February 10, combining a work session and regular meeting. Both changes were approved. Correction. The article on the Board of Education in the December 6, 2025 issue of our Community News stated that as part of the new organization Innovate Pikes Peak, the district's Career and Innovation Center would allow students from other participating districts to attend classes at the CIC. That is not the case. Innovate Pikes Peak is a group of districts, chambers of commerce, and other entities devoted to collaboratively equip students for life after high school while strengthening the workforce in the area. OCN regrets the error. The Lewis Palmer D38 Board of Education usually meets in the Bauman Learning Center at 6 p.m. on the third Monday of the month at 146 Jefferson Street in Monument. The January meeting will be held on January 26 to accommodate the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Harriet Halbig may be reached at harriethalbig@ocn.me. Monument Academy School Board, December 11, MA retains BB credit rating. By Jackie Burr-Hans. The Monument Academy MA board met on December 11 and heard an update on its S&P credit rating, approved a contract for its track and field project, heard a presentation on Capturing Kids' Hearts, CKH, recognized a high school club, and updated policies. No change to credit rating. Finance Director Laura Poland reported that she had heard back from Standard & Poor's, S&P, on the school's credit rating and took that information back to MA's bond counsel. She said the BB rating was due, in part, to the lack of refinancing but that MA had been waiting to refinance until it got its new credit rating, describing it as a chicken and egg situation. MA's enrollment numbers also played a factor in keeping the bond rating at BB-, she said. S&P describes BB as being below investment grade, in the speculative category, noting that it is less vulnerable in the near term than lower-rated entities but faces major ongoing uncertainties or exposure to adverse conditions. See https://www.spglobal.com/ratings/and/credit-ratings/about/understanding-credit-ratings. Credit ratings can impact borrowing costs and limit the investor base and the strictness of bond covenants. In the Finance Committee meeting report, board member Craig Carl said that in talking to other charter schools, a BB rating was becoming common in their growth phase. He said that MA doesn't want to lose steam of its momentum. Carl said that there are a lot of good, positive things happening, and MA is making strong progress. Board President Ryan Graham said that MA will be refinancing its 2019 bonds and should pull the trigger in the next 30 to 60 days if not sooner. He also said MA would be breaking ground soon on its new track and field CRP contract proposal. Graham introduced R.J. LaForge of Wember Incorporated as the owner's representative, while Brian Risley of CRP Architects would be the architect for the new track and field. Graham reminded the board that it had previously approved a schematic design. LaForge said he was seeking approval of a contract to take the design into the construction phase and was available to answer questions about funding. Poland said the funds for the contract would come from the refinancing. Graham said that the board had some revisions that were brought back to the committee that would be implemented and that the project would be done in 2 tiers. The first tier would include the track, field, and a press box that meet CHSAA criteria. The second tier would work on a capital campaign to raise money for bleachers and lights. The board voted unanimously to approve the contract with CRP for the final design. Capturing Kids' Hearts presentation. Mark McKinney, Senior Leadership Strategist from CKH, gave a presentation about the program and how it aligns with Monument Academy. CKH is a program used at MA and D38 schools that equips teachers, coaches, administrators, and district leaders to improve school culture and academic performance. McKinney said that everything CKH teaches is in the context of leadership, and MA wants to build leaders, not followers. CKH uses the initialism Excel to describe its framework: E for engage, X for explore, C for communicate, E for empower, and L for launch. McKinney said public schools with CKH experienced 17% more connection and 40% growth as well as a 22% reduction in discipline referrals and 18% higher teacher retention rate than the national average. McKinney said that these statistics came from surveys at the beginning and middle of the school year. Surveys go to teachers, staff, students, and families. McKinney explained that CKH's discipline model asks, "What are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing, and what are you doing about it?" MA's vision statement talks about valuing security, character, connection, growth, and excellence, all of which fall in line with CKH, he said. A lot of programs tell teachers you need to have good relationships with your students. CKH gives specific tools, McKinney noted. Vinchattel said CKH was brought to MA before he started and is fully implemented at the elementary and middle school levels. MA's middle school was named CKH National Showcase School in 2025. Vinchattel said that implementation was underway at the high school. Graham asked if there was board training, saying he'd like to sit through a staff presentation. Note, for more information, see www.capturingkidshearts.com. Board recognizes high school club. Vice President Lindsay Clinton said that in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, a group of high school students at MA began forming a Turning Point USA Club America chapter. They were the first in D38 to complete the process and sponsored a 5K that had 250 participants to honor Kirk, she said. Club America's program educates young people about the importance of limited governments, free markets, and freedom, she said, encouraging students to be leaders in their communities. Clinton said this student-led club meets after school and includes students from 8th to 12th grade. She said the board wanted to honor the group of students and thank their teacher-supervisor. Clinton called up the students in attendance and presented them each with certificates and a group photo. The students included Joshua Deniston, Grace Dunstan, Serena Krell, Kainoa Smith, and Annalise Verones. Policy updates. The board tabled Policy IJMA selection of instruction materials and textbook policy and procedures at its related exhibit after hearing from Vinchattel that there was confusion during the feedback period. Reviewers wanted a deeper discussion on pacing and the process of adopting a new textbook edition, he said. The board will discuss this policy at its January meeting. The board unanimously approved the following policy updates as described by Vinchattel. GBBMA staff involvement in decision-making describes the system in place for teachers to communicate during the decision-making process stated in plain terms. GCBAMA instructional staff contracts, compensation, salary schedule speaks to how MA approaches contracts, compensations, and salary schedules. Vinchattel said that MA does not have a true salary schedule. GCBCMA professional staff supplementary pay plans/overtime describes how MA approaches overtime for hourly and salary staff. MA primarily uses stipends, a different approach than D38 uses for coaches. GCBDMA professional staff fringe benefits speaks to the benefits MA provides its staff, which is a little different than D38. Some benefits are mandated by the state, Vinchattel noted. GCBDMA licensed staff meet and confer process, which states that MA does not meet and confer, because it doesn't have a union. Note, board policies can be found at https://tinyurl.com/ma-policies. Highlights. Board meeting highlights include: Executive Director. Vinchattel noted that intent to return forms had been sent to families asking that they fill them out, because it helps with the planning process. Enrollment was underway, he said, with some full elementary grades on a wait list. He reported on holiday goings-on, including craft fairs, concerts, and Spirit Week. Finance Director Poland reviewed the October financials, noting that they represented 33% of the school year. She noted that there were large dollar expenditures, which were purposeful deficit spending, which would use its Employee Retention Tax Credit, ERTC, funds, including pre-construction expenses that would be recouped when MA refinances its East Campus bonds, staff bonuses, and revenue losses due to enrollment differences from the budgeted amount. On a year-to-date basis, MA is at a net loss of $591,000, but after adjusting for the ERTC fund usage, it is at $89,400 in net income overall. Student Accountability and Advisory Committee, SAAC, West. Clinton said the school survey is live until January 12, and MA is seeking responses from West Campus families. There will be rewards by grade level for 50% or higher participation, she noted. Resources and Development. Clinton said save-the-date cards for MA's annual fundraising gala went home, and ticket sales will open in January. She thanked Operations Manager Jake Dykes for his assistance in applying to the Charter School Facility Assistance Program, CSFAP, through the Colorado Department of Education. Preschool Handbook and Tuition. Director Christy Hayes said the handbook added a visitor's policy in line with the elementary school and added information about the Universal Pre-Kindergarten, UPK, program. She also proposed a small increase in monthly tuition of $100 per month. She noted that families who qualified for 15 or 30 hours of free UPK tuition would not have to pay unless they exceeded those hours. Families signing up for the Friday Enrichment Program would see an increase from $50 to $100 per month. The board unanimously approved the increase in tuition. Mid-year budget. Poland provided an initial presentation showing a $40 increase in per-pupil revenue and a decrease of $29 in enrollment projections. The income was also adjusted for instructional fees, donations, the mill levy override, MLO, payments for Walden, and the state CSFAP grant, as well as staff bonuses. She transferred $15,000 to the preschool fund and added interest from UMB Bank. The net income will be $144,000 less than the original budget. Expense changes include bonuses, staffing changes, $75,000 for the Income marketing contract for the year, stipends for after-school clubs, class trips, West Campus building repair, back taxes, modulars, etc. The bottom line shows $184,000 in deficit spending, which is less than the $580,000 projected. Poland said she would bring this budget back for approval at the January meeting. The MA School Board meets at 6:30 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month. The next regular board meeting will be on January 8 at 6:30 p.m. at the East Campus. The agenda and packet are available at tinyurl.com/my-boarddocs. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Donala Water and Sanitation District, December 11, 2026 Budget adopted. By James Howell and Jackie Burr-Hans. In December, the Donala Water and Sanitation District, DWSD, Board completed work on the district's 2026 budget and set its fees and mill levies. It appointed a new member to the Loop Water Authority's board and discussed upgrades to its security. The board heard operational reports and set a goal to begin a search for a new general manager. The meeting ended with an executive session. 2026 budget wrapped up. Board President Wayne Vanderschwer opened a public hearing on the budget, rates, and fees for 2026. Interim General Manager Christina Hawker said the budget includes 5% rate increases for water and sewer service as discussed in previous meetings. The budget message included in the packet for the meeting notes that the district's operating and administrative expenditures are anticipated to be $7.1 million, with $751,000 earmarked for long-term debt service payments. Capital improvement projects, including tank and well rehabilitation, sewer line inspections, and water rights expenses, are expected to cost $1.8 million. Total operating and non-operating revenue is estimated at $11.6 million. Following Hawker's presentation, the board voted to approve Resolution 2025-8, which adopts the budget, and Resolution 2205-9, which appropriates the required funds. Mill levies set. Resolution 2025-10, which the board passed unanimously, sets the mill levy for the bulk of the district at 21.296 mills. Resolution 2025-11, also passed unanimously, sets the mill levy for 6 properties near Stuthurst Loop at 10.648 mills. Those properties have a lower mill levy because they receive only water service from DWSD. Director appointed to Loop Board. The board appointed Director William George to represent DWSD on the Loop Water Authority Board, replacing General Manager Jeff Hodge, who is on paid administrative leave. See https://wp. ocn.me/v25n9dwsd/, for details. Hawker will continue as DWSD's second representative on the Loop Board. Water operator Cade Pennington is DWSD's alternate. New general manager sought. During director's comments, Vanderschwer asked the board to begin thinking about how to appoint a new permanent general manager in the first quarter of 2026. Security upgrade. Hawker told the board she had been looking into improving the district's physical security and its emergency response plan. Because the cost might exceed $50,000, Hawker required board approval and 2 quotes for the work. Hawker said a recent alarm event brought to her attention a gap in the district's camera footage, and the Environmental Protection Agency is putting rules in place in 2026 with which DWSD's emergency response plan must comply. Hawker said the quotes for the work were far apart. The lower was $47,000 and the higher was $150,000. The board voted to authorize Hawker to continue her comparison and move forward with the best option. Operational reports. In her acting general manager's report, Hawker mentioned she was trying to determine if Well 7D is eligible for reimbursement under a grant for radium abatement. Hawker said she had received a call from a trusted source regarding unauthorized hunting on the district's Willow Creek Ranch. The board recently discussed granting access to the ranch to nearby residents in return for their agreeing to contact the district in the event of unauthorized uses of the ranch. Hawker contacted Colorado Parks and Wildlife to begin a poaching investigation and advised the board to press trespassing charges. She said she had communicated with the person in question to let him know he did not have permission to use the ranch. Hawker noted that high manganese levels had initiated a discharge monitoring report, but waste plant operator Aaron Tolman believed the reporting method had been misinterpreted and the district was not in violation. In his report, Tolman said he was working on clarifying the manganese reporting, and all other wastewater measurements were within limits. Superintendent of Water Operations Ronnie Wright noted that water sales were slow. He reported on an issue with a hatch gasket on a water storage tank that required the tank to be disinfected and refilled. He said the Holbein treatment plant and the Hull treatment plant were scheduled for backwashing and filter replacement over the next few months. Executive session. The meeting ended with an executive session to confer with legal counsel regarding the district's pending water court application in Case 24 CW 3019. No actions were taken following the executive session. The next board meeting is on Thursday, January 15, at 1:30 p.m. Generally, board meetings are held on the third Thursday of the month at 1:30 p.m. and include online access. Call 719-488-3603 or access www.donalawater.org to receive up-to-date meeting information. The district office is located at 15850 Holbein Drive, Colorado Springs. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. Triview Metropolitan District, December 11, Water and Wastewater Rates Increase, 2026 Budget Approved. By Natalie Barsh. At the Triview Metropolitan District, TMD, meeting on December 11, the board held a public hearing on the 2026 utility rates, fees, connection charges, public works fees such as drainage fees, parks and open space fees, and road and bridge fees, and a public hearing on the district's 2026 budget. The board ratified an agreement with PFM Consulting LLC. The board held an executive session to receive legal advice regarding water matters, pending litigation, agreements with the Town of Monument, TOM, and other governmental and private entities, the Central Reservoir, the acquisition of a right-of-way for Blevins Buckle, and the Northern Monument Creek Interceptor, NMCI, project. Director John Gibbons was excused. Water and wastewater rates. The board received a rate forecast presentation from consultants Andrew O'Brien and Peyton Gibson of Waterworth. O'Brien explained the timeline for the suggested rate increases and the management of revenue through 2030. Waterworth provides a software platform to manage and predict the future revenues needed to maintain the district's level of services to its customers. After holding a public hearing with no comments during or received before the meeting, the board reviewed and approved Resolution 2025-15 establishing rates and fees for the provision of water and wastewater services for TMD. For the rate tables effective January 1, 2026, and other updates, see the TMD December newsletter at www.triviewmetro.com. 2026 Budget. District Manager James McGrady said the budget goals are: increase cash reserves to the fullest extent possible, start and complete the Higbee Road widening project, could extend into 2027. Provide strong benefit packages to reward employees and foster employee retention with a 3.5% COLA increase. Provide equipment and vehicles to ensure jobs can be performed. Maximize the use of the district's renewable water resources. Ensure the district's facilities, including roads, parks, open space, reservoirs, diversion structures, wells, and pump stations, are maintained and enhanced. Complete the district's utility operations and administration building. Fund and participate in the NMCI. Maximize the use of existing infrastructure in order to maximize revenues and build a roundabout on Jackson Creek Parkway at Lyons Tail Road. After holding a public hearing with no comments, the board reviewed and approved Resolution 2025-16, certifying the district's property tax debt service mill levy set at 13.5 mils, and the property tax operations mill levy used to pay for the voter-approved Higbee Road project bond payments, set at 7 mils, for a total of 20.5 mils. In a 4-0 vote, the board approved the 2026 budget, appropriating the funds for the district. McGrady said the district also receives revenue via a sales tax share back with the TOM for operations, and the specific ownership tax, vehicle registrations, and other revenue from building permits, use tax, Forest Lakes Metropolitan District, FLMD, Colorado Conservation Trust Fund, grants, programming fees from Sanctuary Point Park, and interest earnings. In a 4-0 vote, the board also approved the following. Resolution 2025-17, the Annual Administrative Resolution. The Fifth Amendment to an agreement between FLMD and TMD for contract operations services, provided by the District, effective January 1, 2026. An audit engagement letter between TMD and Haney & Company to perform the District's 2025 financial audit in 2026. An approval for Mountain View Electric Association Incorporated, MVA, Work Order 230923 for the undergrounding of about 5,500 feet of overhead power line from Jackson Creek Parkway to a point about 600 feet east of Harness Road in the amount of $993,838. An easement agreement between TMD and the Stonewall Springs Reservoir Company, a Colorado Mutual Water Company, and the District. The Board approved an agreement with PFM Consulting LLC to provide consulting services at a rate of $150 per hour plus expenses relating to mining, environmental permitting, and all related matters associated with real property at the Stonewall Springs Reservoir Complex located in Pueblo. Water Operations Update. The report submitted by Water Treatment Superintendent Gary Potter stated that the Northern Delivery System produced 69% of the district's water in November, and the same percentage is expected for December in keeping with the budget. The district produced about 14,257 gallons in the October billing cycle and sold about 13,883 gallons to customers, leaving 337,847 gallons or about 2.62% of non-revenue, unbilled, water. Potter is optimistic that Triview is at the start of a new trend after 2 months in a row of very low water loss. Additional water storage. Assistant Manager Steve Sheffield said the water storage tank project at Plant B in Promontory Point is on hold until spring 2026. The construction of the tank will be determined after the project goal of preparing the site for the construction of the concrete tank is completed. The site requires the installation of additional underground piping, new stormwater alignments, and final grading in 2026. Executive Session. The Board moved into executive session at about 7:54 p.m. to receive legal advice pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes, CRS, Section 24-6-402(4)(b), as it relates to water matters and agreements with the TOM and other governmental entities, acquisition of right-of-way for Blevins Buckle, NMCI project funding timeline and discussions with DWSD, and the Monument 2040 plan. The session also involved determining positions related to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and instructing negotiations as it relates to the previously mentioned subjects, pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402(4)(b). Meetings are usually held on the third Thursday of the month at the district office located at 16055 Old Forest Point, Suite 302. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for January 15 at 5:30 p.m. For meeting agendas, minutes, and updates, visit https://triviewmetro.com. Natalie Barsh can be reached at nataliebarsh@ocn.me. Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, December 15, 2026 budget adopted and rate set. By James Howell. At its December meeting, the Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, WWSD, Board held a public hearing on its rates for 2026 and concluded a public hearing on its budget opened at its previous meeting. It discussed a request for supplemental water service from the Monument Fire District, MFD, for a new station it plans to build on the west side of Jackson Creek Parkway and renewed WWSD's contract with the Chilkat Ditch Company. Paul Flack, the contractor managing the revegetation project at Woodmoor Ranch, gave the Board a final report on the 10-year effort. The Board heard operational and financial reports from District Manager Jesse Schaefer, Operations Superintendent Dan LaFontaine, Board Treasurer Dana Franson, and District Engineer Sidney Salins. The meeting ended with an executive session. Rate increases and budget approved. At the public hearing on rates, Schaefer told the Board that water and sewer tap fees would increase by 10% and 3%, respectively. The base fee and volumetric rates for water service would increase by 7% and the base fee for sewer service would increase by 5%. The renewable water infrastructure fee would remain unchanged at $40 per month. A complete schedule of fees for 2026 is on the district's website here, https://tinyurl.com/4hwwt2ts. There were no comments from the public, and the hearing was closed. At the continuation of the hearing on the 2026 budget, Schaefer said there were few changes to the draft presented at the November meeting, just some adjustments to when the district would pay retainage fees to contractors. He said he added documentation to the November draft for the board's information. Schaefer said the 2026 budget anticipated revenue just above $14 million and expenditures of $19.5 million, requiring about $5.4 million to be spent from reserves. Total reserves of $18.5 million were expected at the end of 2026, Schaefer said. The budget hearing was closed, and the board voted unanimously in favor of Resolution 25-04, which sets the rates and fees for 2026, and Resolution 25-05, which adopts the budget and appropriates the required funds. Supplemental water requested by MFD. MFD Division Chief of Support Services Jamie Bumgarner asked the board to consider providing 2.7 acre-feet per year of supplemental water service to a new fire station planned for a site west of Jackson Creek Parkway and north of the Tri-Lakes YMCA. Supplemental water service costs $34,500 per acre-foot per year. Bumgarner said MFD's request complied with WWSD's water demand methodology. Board President Brian Bush directed Schaefer to draft an agreement with MFD for the board to approve at a later meeting. Contract with Chilkat Ditch Company renewed. Schaefer asked the board to consider renewing the district's contract with the Chilkat Ditch Company. The contract, which is renewed every year, obligates WWSD to provide management, administrative, and ditch rider services to the company. WWSD is the largest shareholder in the ditch company, and the Chilkat Ditch, which conveys water from Fountain Creek to shareholders and to the Calhoun Reservoir, will be used as part of the Loop Water Reuse Project. Schaefer told the board there were no changes to the previous year's contract, and the board voted unanimously to approve it. Woodmoor Ranch Revegetation Project complete. In his introduction of FLAC, Schaefer told the board that the work to revegetate Woodmoor Ranch with native grasses, required by the district's conversion of the ranch's water rights from agricultural to municipal uses, was substantially complete and had met the terms and conditions of WWSD's water decree. The active part is done, Schaefer said, and now the focus would be on stewardship and land management practices around weed management. He thanked FLAC for doing a phenomenal job. FLAC gave the board an overview of the report he will write on behalf of the district. The report will be written to sum up the project to a water judge in the unlikely event that the work is ever disputed. FLAC said 98% of the ranch had been successfully revegetated with native grasses and explained why the other 2% could not be revegetated. Some portions could not be revegetated because the water table was too high, making the land too salty to allow grass to grow. Another portion was not suitable for revegetation because it was naturally irrigated by runoff from nearby hills. In his conclusion, FLAC gave Schaefer some tools and notebooks that survived a tornado at the ranch in 2019 as keepsakes. Bush suggested that the warehouse at the ranch be named in FLAC's honor. Operational reports. In his manager's report, Schaefer said 2026 would be a busy year for the Loop Water Reuse Project. He said Burns and McDonnell had submitted a preliminary design for the water treatment facility, and the Loop's board had provided comments that Burns and McDonnell were incorporating into its design. Schaefer said the design of the pipelines and pumps, also assigned to Burns and McDonnell, was expected to be completed in January. The plan to enlarge the Calhoun Reservoir is 30% complete, and the Loop Board is discussing access to the Sundance pipeline with its owner, the Cherokee Metropolitan District. "We are wound tight," Schaefer said. In response to a question from Director Roy Martinez, LaFontaine explained some of the technical details of the water treatment plant design. He explained that after an initial filtration, the Loop's water would be filtered again through granular activated carbon, GAC, which can remove so-called forever chemicals, pharmaceuticals, endocrine disruptors, and other emergent contaminants. LaFontaine said the use of GAC future-proofed the water treatment design. A further stage of treatment would keep the level of total dissolved solids at an acceptable level, LaFontaine said. The treatment plant would initially have 2 filtration trains providing redundancy and capable of delivering 2 million gallons of treated water daily. The design anticipates the addition of another 2 filtration trains at build-out, LaFontaine said. In his financial report, Board Treasurer Dana Franson said revenue from water sales would not reach projected levels for the year, and revenue from tap fees was also less than expected. Expenses were in line with revenues, Franson said, adding, "Everything looks good." Schaefer commented that there had been less legal work related to water rights in 2025 than expected. Professional fees related to Woodmoor Ranch were also falling, he said. District Engineer Sidney Salins reported that the drilling for Well 12R is complete, and welders were brought in to address structural issues with the south water tank so that recoating can continue. She said that the North Bay development, which is just north of Lake Woodmoor and east of the Cove, is active again and a planned unit review had been submitted for zoning review. The number of homes in the development has been reduced from 28 to 6, Salins said. The Monument Ridge East project had just submitted another round of plans for review by WWSD, addressing just the single-family homes planned for the east edge of the property, Salins said. Executive session. The meeting ended with an executive session for the board to receive legal counsel regarding potential agreements with the LWA and the MFD. No action was taken following the executive session. The next meeting is on January 12 at 1 p.m. Meetings are usually held on the second Monday of each month at 1 p.m. at the district office at 1845 Woodmoor Drive. Please see www.woodmoorwater.com or call 719-488-2525 to verify meeting times and locations. James Howald can be reached at jameshowald@ocn.me. Monument Sanitation District, December 17, 2026. Budget approved, compensation debated. By Jackie Burr Hans and James Howald. At its December meeting, the Monument Sanitation District, MSD, board concluded its work on its 2026 budget and approved rates and fees that are unchanged except for lien fees. It also discussed how to align its compensation with similar districts. Budget approved and funds appropriated. Board President Dan Hamilton opened a public hearing on the proposed 2026 budget and on the rates and fees, both of which the board had hammered out at a workshop meeting and at its November meeting. Parker noted that the only changes to the fee schedule were increases to the fees for filing and certifying liens. Parker explained that the increases were due to El Paso County, EPC, increasing what it charges to handle the liens that MSD files against delinquent accounts. The fees compensate EPC for the work it does to collect the liens. EPC deposits the money due to MSD in MSD's bank account, Parker explained. The 2026 budget specifies a beginning fund balance of $934,000. It anticipates $1.37 million in income and $2.31 million in expenditures, for an ending fund balance of $976. There were no comments from the public, and the hearing was closed. The board considered Resolution 121722025-1, which adopts the 2026 budget and appropriates the required funds. Parker said the budget allowed for 5% salary increases. Hamilton said he wanted to discuss cost of living increases and bonuses included in the budget later in the meeting during the Directors' Matters agenda item. Director Shannon Clark said she intended to abstain from the vote on the resolution because she didn't have enough information. She noted that other sanitation districts were increasing wages by only 3%, and she didn't understand why MSD was budgeting for a 5% increase. Parker explained that, while the budget contained funds for a 5% increase, any increase would be decided as a separate issue later. Director Janet Ladowski said that was the process used the previous year. The board, including Clark, voted to approve the resolution. The board then took up Resolution 121722025-2, which approves the rates and fees for 2026. Parker said he had researched the fee schedules of surrounding districts and thought MSD's fees were in line with the districts he investigated. The board voted unanimously for the resolution. Compensation to be reviewed. Hamilton said he and Clark had reviewed the compensation in place at some comparable districts, and as a result, he and Clark were not sure MSD's compensation for Parker and Accounts Administrator Charan Alsop aligned with other districts. He said he wanted to continue to study that issue with the goal of aligning MSD's compensation by March. He said he wasn't going to push for major changes at the December meeting because he did not have all the facts. He noted that he has not been doing annual performance reviews with Parker. Hamilton said MSD was alone in its use of bonuses, which were left over from the past. Clark handed out compensation schedules she had collected from comparable sanitation districts. Hamilton pointed out that the salaries for district managers varied from $73,000 to $343,000, a huge range. Hamilton moved to give a cost of living increase of 3% for Parker, to begin in January. He also recommended cash gifts of $1,000 to Parker and $750 to Alsop, because he did not want to depart from previous year's practice too abruptly. Hamilton said he wanted to move away from bonuses and gifts by getting Parker's compensation properly set. The board voted unanimously in favor of Hamilton's motion. Monument Sanitation District meetings are held at 9 a.m. on the third Wednesday of the month in the District Conference Room at 132nd Street, Monument. The next regular meeting is scheduled for January 21st. See monumentsanitation.district.org. For a district service map, see www.monumentsanitation.district.org/district-map. For information, 719-481-4886. Jackie Burr-Hans can be reached at jackieburhans@ocn.me. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. El Paso County Regional Loop Water Authority, December 18, Board considers hiring Executive Director. By James Howell. At its meeting in December, the El Paso County Regional Loop Water Authority, EPCRLWA, or the Loop, Board discussed hiring an Executive Director. The board acknowledged a replacement for one of the Donala Water and Sanitation District's, DWSD, representatives on the Loop's board. Patricia Hutchinson, a civil design engineer with Merrick & Company, who is acting as the Loop's workflow manager and coordinating the work being done by the consulting and engineering companies contributing to the project, gave the board an update. The board heard a financial report from Corbin from & Company, LLC, the Loop's accountant. Executive Director to ease workload. Board President Jesse Schaefer asked the board to consider hiring an executive director to take on day-to-day administrative work currently done by the directors, each of whom has a full-time job with one of the participating districts in addition to their responsibilities with the Loop. If the board adds the position, the executive director would be the Loop's first employee. Previously, all Loop tasks have been handled either by the Loop directors, who are appointed by the boards of the participating districts, or by contractors. Schaefer said 2026 would be a busy year for the project, requiring lots of coordination of contractors, calls, and meetings. He suggested adding a full-time executive director to handle the Loop's business. Schaefer noted that much of the director's time was dedicated to working on the committees overseeing large aspects of the Loop project, such as the design of the water treatment plant and the expansion of the Calhoun Reservoir. He said he had discussed the possibility with some of the Loop's directors and had drafted a job posting. Schaefer said it might take time to find the right candidate. Directors Christina Hawker and Madeline Van Den Hoek, who represent DWSD and the town of Monument, respectively, agreed with Schaefer's suggestion. Director Dan LaFontaine, who represents the Woodmoor Water and Sanitation District, said, for the sake of continuity, the staffing of the design committee should remain unchanged. Tom Tharnish, who represents the town of Monument, asked Schaefer to send his draft of the job responsibilities to all the directors. Schaefer said he would do so, adding that he thought a salary of $145,000 to $185,000 would be appropriate. Attorney Nicole Paykoff suggested that the executive director not be paid with funds from the American Recovery Plan Act, as doing so would add a regulatory burden. The board voted unanimously to authorize Schaefer to post the position. DWSD's William George to succeed Jeff Hodge. The board welcomed William George as the replacement for Jeff Hodge, who, until recently, had represented DWSD on the Loop's board. George, who was traveling, was excused from the December meeting. Merrick update. Hutchinson told the board that she had received an update to the Loop's agreement with Geotech that included drilling 12 bores to categorize the soils at the site of the water treatment facility, at the Calhoun Reservoir, and at the Chilkat Ditch, at an additional cost of $119,000. Schaefer questioned the need for 12 bores and asked Hutchinson to ask Geotech why so many were needed. Hutchinson said the design for the water treatment facility being done by Burns and McDonnell had been reviewed the previous week, and changes were being considered based on the feedback from that review. The design for required pumps and pipelines, also being done by Burns and McDonnell, was planned to be 30% complete by January 22, Hutchinson said. Financial report. From told the board that invoices totaling $123,000 had been received in November. The invoices were from accounting, legal, and engineering companies, with Burns and McDonnell being the primary service provider. The board approved payment of the invoices. He noted that the Loop had received a check for $138,000 from the El Paso Board of County Commissioners, as reimbursement for the Loop's expenses during the first quarter of 2025. From expected reimbursement checks for the second and third quarters to be received soon. From said the Loop had spent 21% of its budget for 2025. The board voted unanimously to accept FROM's financial report. The next regular meeting is scheduled for January 25 at 9 a.m. Regular meetings are held on the third Thursday of each month at 9 a.m. at the Monument Town Hall at 645 Beacon Light Road. Please see loopwater.org or call 719-488-3603 to verify meeting times and locations. James Howell can be reached at jameshowell@ocn.me. El Paso County Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners, Planning Commission recommends J.J. Ranch, Gleneagle View, Hidden Creek for approval. By Marlene Brown. El Paso County Planning Commission, December 11. Consulting Services, represented by Nina Ruiz, was seeking final plat approval for the J.J. Ranch 3-lot subdivision located at 10155 Hardy Road near Black Forest. The Planning Commission, PC, recommended that the application be approved, and a public hearing was held December 18 at the Board of County Commissioners, BOCC, regular meeting. Gleneagle View Final Plat, owned by TKA Properties LLP of Omaha, Nebraska, requested that 3 tracts be combined into one lot. Located on the corner of Northgate and Struthers Roads next to the 7-Eleven lot, it is zoned commercial. Staff reported that all documents had been filed for the final plat. The PC recommended that the application be approved for a public hearing at the December 18 BOCC regular meeting. Hidden Creek Rezone, previously known as 3405 Hay Creek Rezone, requested a rezone from RR 5 to RR 2.5. The PC signed the resolution to recommend approval at the January 8 BOCC meeting. The applicant requested approval of the final plat to create 6 residential lots in Hay Creek Filing 2. The PC stated that the petition of 3405 Hay Creek LLC had met all criteria for submitting the request for final plat filing 2 Hidden Creek Estates and recommends that the BOCC approve the filing with the waiver to allow a private road to be constructed in lieu of a public road. BOCC will hold a hearing at the January 8 meeting. Board of County Commissioners approves Sky Vista Subdivision, December 11. Applicant Matrix Design Group Incorporated, represented by Luke Bonner, requested final plat approval of Sky Vista Subdivision at 16850 Stepler Road, north of Hodgen Road and adjacent to Settlers Ranch Road. Included are 13 lots with well, septic, and public roads. Staff for the PC reported that all filing criteria and documents had been met and filed and recommended approval from the BOCC at the December 11 regular meeting. After a public hearing with the BOCC, the project was approved December 15. County Board of Adjustments, December 11. Applicant owner David P. Welts requested dimensional variance at 4675 Red Forest Road. The applicant requested that the Board of Adjustments allow an accessory structure closer to the front setback than the principal structure. Staff reported that all project data requests and criteria had been met and approved at the December 11 public hearing. The project closed December 15. Board of County Commissioners, December 9. On the consent agenda, items were approved regarding resolutions on a memorandum agreement and temporary construction easements associated with Highway 105B, Lake Woodmoor Drive and Martingale Road. The agreement is between the Public Works Department and the owners of subsequent property and utility easements at 145 Tall Pine Lane in the Woodmoor subdivision. Resolutions were approved regarding the memorandum agreement and temporary easements associated with Highway 105B and the replacement and planting of 3 ponderosa pine trees. The agreement is between the Public Works Department and the owners at 18045 Martingale Road in the Arrowwood subdivision. Note, the files and documents for these and other projects for unincorporated El Paso County can be found at the Electronic Development Application Review Program, EDARP, epcdevplanreview.com. The Planning Commission usually meets on the first and third Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. at the Regional Development Center, 2880 International Circle, Suite 110, Colorado Springs. Call 719-327-2880 for more information. The Board of County Commissioners meets every Tuesday at 9 a.m. at 200 South Cascade Avenue, Suite 100, Colorado Springs. BOCC Land Use meets on the second and fourth Thursday, and the Board of Adjustment meets directly after the BOCC. Call 719-520-7276 for more information. Marlene Brown can be contacted at marlenebrown@ocn.me. Between the covers at Covered Treasures Bookstore, resolve to take care of yourself in 2026. By the staff at Covered Treasures. As we leave another year behind, many of us make resolutions, hopeful we can be better versions of ourselves in 2026. Here are a few books that might help, whether our goal is for mind, body, or spirit. Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. By Catherine May, Penguin Random House, $28. Unforeseen circumstances like an abrupt illness, the death of a loved one, a breakup, or a job loss can derail a life. These periods of dislocation can be lonely and unexpected. Drawing on her own life's difficult periods, May offers a guide to leaning into fallow times and savoring the lessons of hardship. She models an active acceptance of sadness and encourages ways to find nourishment in emotional retreat, joy in the hushed beauty of winter, and encouragement in understanding life as cyclical, not linear. The Book of Hope. By Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams, Celadon Books, $29. How do we stay hopeful when everything seems hopeless? How do we cultivate hope in our children? What is the relationship between hope and action? Jane Goodall reminds us that hope is not simply passive wishful thinking, that real hope requires action and engagement, and that actions, however small they seem, truly make a difference. We Can Do Hard Things, Answers to Life's 20 Questions. By Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and Amanda Doyle, Dial Press, $34. When you travel through a new country, you need a guidebook. When you travel through the challenges of life, love, heartbreak, joy, parenting, friendship, uncertainty, aging, grief, new beginnings, you need a guidebook, too. The three authors asked each other and 118 of the world's most brilliant wayfinders, as you've traveled these roads, have you collected any wisdom that might help us find our way? This book is their guidebook for being alive. Meditations for Mortals, for weeks to embrace your limitations and make time for what counts. By Oliver Berkman, Picador, USA, $19. Addressing the fundamental questions about how to live, Meditations for Mortals offers a powerful new way to take action on what counts, a guiding philosophy of life. Accepting our imperfectionism helps us tackle challenges as they crop up in our daily lives, our finite time, the lure of distractions, the impossibility of being perfect. The Comfort of Crows, A Backyard Year. By Margaret Renkel, Spiegel and Grau, $32. Margaret Renkel's Howling Love Letter to the World, published in 2023, presents a literary devotional, 52 chapters that follow the creatures and plants in her backyard over the course of a year. Perhaps this is the year for you to move through the seasons with her, becoming more aware of nature in your own backyard. From the crow and its resourcefulness and sense of community, to the sparrow singing in the pine tree next to your driveway, let her help you become more aware of the radiant things, bursting forth in the darkest places, in the smallest nooks and deepest cracks of the hidden world. How to Winter, Harness Your Mindset to Thrive on Cold, Dark, Difficult Days. By Carrie Leibovitz, Ph.D., Viking, $29. Do you find coping with the shorter days and colder temperatures of winter to be especially difficult? Do you experience a slump every January and February? Psychologist and winter expert Carrie Leibovitz uses mindset science to help readers embrace winter as a season to be enjoyed, not endured, and in turn, learn powerful lessons that can impact our mental well-being throughout the year. Inspired by cutting-edge psychological and behavioral science research as well as cultures worldwide that find warmth and joy in winter's extremes, How to Winter provides readers with concrete tools for making winter wonderful wherever they live and harnessing the power of small mindset changes to help readers embrace every season of life. Stretching, 40th Anniversary Edition. Bob and Jean Anderson, Shelter Publications, $23.95. Written and illustrated by Tri-Lakes residents Bob and Jean Anderson, Stretching is one of the most popular fitness books in the world, having sold over 3.75 million copies in 40 years, and has been translated into 23 languages. There are stretches for improving the bad posture attributable to cell phone usage, tech neck, and for people using computers. The 150 stretches include simple instructions and 1- or 2-page graphic illustrations to help you utilize the proper postures for your stretches. Not Too Sweet. By Jessica Seinfeld, Simon & Schuster, $32.50. Many of us come away from the holidays promising ourselves to cut back on our sugar, or fat, or wheat, you name it, intake. If you are still craving that sweet bite, consider this collection of dessert recipes tailored for sweet tooths and dietary restrictions of most requirements from gluten-free to vegan, dairy-free, less sugar so you can have your cake and eat it, too. Each recipe page is headed with its dietary restriction features: gluten-free, grain-free, vegan, no added sugar. Always remember, the boy, the mole, the fox, the horse, and the storm. By Charlie Mackesy, Penguin Random House, $27. One day you'll look back and realize how hard it was, and just how well you did. Charlie Mackesy's four unlikely friends are wandering through the wilds again. They're not sure what they are looking for. They do know that life can be difficult, but that they love each other, and cake is often the answer. When the dark clouds come, can the boy remember what he needs to get through the storm? Sometimes a slim little book has the words to remind us that we're stronger than we think. Sit back, take a deep breath, and enjoy this time of new beginnings. If you get stuck on a resolution, or a promise, grab a helpful book. Until next month, happy reading, and wishing you a healthy 2026. The staff at Covered Treasures can be reached at books@ocn.me. January Library Events, Winter Adult Reading Program, Homeschool Program, Adult Book Swap. By Harriet Halbig. Regularly occurring programs will resume in January. These include Storytime every Tuesday from 10:30 to 11:15 for children ages 3 to 7 and their parents or caregivers. Toddler Time every Wednesday from 9:30 to 10 and 10:30 to 11 a.m. for toddlers ages 1 to 2 and their parents or caregivers. Socrates Cafe every Tuesday from 1 to 3. This adult discussion group covers a different subject each week. All are welcome to attend. Pause to Read every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Practice reading aloud and improve fluency by sharing a story with our lovable volunteer Pause to Read therapy dogs. The Teen Advisory Board will meet from 5 to 6 p.m. on Thursday, January 6th. This group, open to teens ages 13 to 18, helps to develop leadership skills and earn volunteer hours while giving input on what you would like to see happen at the library. Regular attendance is recommended. You must fill out a volunteer application online to participate. On Friday, January 9th, from 4:30 to 5 p.m., explore the science of light and sound by making your own kaleidoscope. Create and test different designs. This program is open to ages 5 to 12. To celebrate the 150th anniversary of Colorado, teens ages 13 to 18 are invited to learn the art of mosaics by transforming Colorado icons into artworks. This program will be offered from 4:30 to 6 p.m. on Monday, January 12th, and registration is required at ppld.org or by calling 719-488-2370. Do you need help with your laptop, smartphone, tablet, or the library's new online catalog? Come to the library from 11 a.m. to noon on Thursday, January 15th, for device drop-in help. No registration is required. Please bring your device and power cords. We cannot help with installing software, removing viruses, or setting up devices. The Teen Dungeons & Dragons group will meet from 3:30 to 5:45 p.m. on Saturday, January 15th. Join your fellow teens on an adventure in the world's greatest role-playing game. New players and veterans alike are welcome to participate. This group is open to ages 13 to 18, and registration is required. Space is limited to 8 participants. Homeschoolers are welcome to participate in Terrific Tangrams on Wednesday, January 21st, from 3 to 4 p.m. Learn about tangrams, a classic Chinese shape puzzle, through a story about a triangle on a quest where listeners follow along and make geometrical configurations with their own set of polygons. This program combines mathematical concepts with story and art. Ages 5 to 12 are welcome to attend. Enjoy a book swap on Saturday, January 24th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bring your clean, gently used adult fiction and non-fiction books and swap them for new-to-you titles. Please only bring adult titles published within the last 5 years. No textbooks, manuals, or magazines. Ages 18 and up. This is offered as part of the Winter Adult Reading Program. If you have items to donate that don't meet the criteria, consider donating to the Friends of the Pikes Peak Library District. All books left after the program will be donated to the Friends for its book sale. The Monument Fiber Arts Group will meet on Friday, January 30th, from 10:30 a.m. to noon. Interested in stitching, knitting, crocheting, and more? Bring your project and socialize with other crafters. Fiber arts groups are open to everyone ages 18 plus and are a great opportunity to learn about new crafts and get to know more about PPLD. No registration is required, and the group is facilitated by PPLD staff. The Winter Adult Reading Program opens for online registration starting Thursday, January 1st, and in person starting Friday, January 2nd, at all PPLD locations. Anyone ages 18 and up can register for this reading challenge to complete 30 days of reading and activities from January 1st to February 28th. Participants will receive a calendar with historic photos from our region when they register, while supplies last, and will receive a limited edition Winter Adult Reading Program mug and coupon for a free dessert at Crumble when they complete the challenge, both while supplies last. Those who complete the challenge will be entered into a grand prize drawing. Anyone who registers between January 1st and 15th will be entered to win a 4-pack of Crumble desserts every week for a year. In celebration of the 150th anniversary of Colorado's statehood and the 250th anniversary of the United States, PPLD is hosting a series of open houses at different library locations throughout 2026. Library users can also pick up a CO 150/USA 250 passport and bring it to each library location for a stamp. Collect 7 stamps to earn a prize and another prize when you collect all 16. For the first open house, visit Regional History and Genealogy located in the historic 1905 Carnegie Library building attached to Penrose Library in downtown Colorado Springs. Enjoy activities and refreshments and complete a scavenger hunt to win a gift card from Poor Richards. Please note that all Pikes Peak Library District facilities will be closed on Friday, January 16th, for a staff training day and on Monday, January 19th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Harriet Halbig may be reached at harriethalbig@ocn.me. High-altitude nature and gardens, mini outdoor greenhouses, cinnamon to protect soil and seedlings. By Janet Sellers. January can be a month to start some of our plants, especially those that need a long growing season. Where we live, plants that need a long growing season to establish roots and develop themselves underground can be started indoors or outdoors, even in winter. I used to try to start seedlings indoors, but there were issues with my efforts. I found some new ways to try this year. Mini greenhouse/cold frame from zip bags. The zip bag technique has been used nationwide for quite some time. We can try this out even in January. Basically, you need gallon-size freezer zip bags, potting soil, not garden soil, water, and seeds. To start, put about 1/3 of the bag full of the potting soil. The key to success is the minimal moisture of the potting soil. Spray with plain water and then pick up a handful, check if it holds together but can easily fall apart, and that's probably just the right amount of moisture. Too much water, if you can form it into a solid ball, could later dry out and become impervious to watering. It must be moist and stay fluffy to support microbes and seed sprouting. Cinnamon and effective soil and plant treatment. Benefits of cinnamon. Natural fungicide. Cinnamon's antifungal properties help control various molds and mildews. Safe for edibles, it's a natural, safe option for vegetable and herb gardens. Dieter's pests, it can also help repel fungus gnats and ants. Use cinnamon as a preventive measure in winter to keep your soil healthy and prevent powdery mildew from taking hold in the spring, especially in the humid environment of a greenhouse. Some gardeners lightly sprinkle dry powdered cinnamon over the top of the moist soil, dusting the surface lightly. This can prevent damping off, a common, often fatal disease in young seedlings. Apply topically to seed starting mixes to stop fungal diseases affecting seedlings. For existing mold, remove visible mold, then sprinkle cinnamon on the spot and increase air circulation. Some gardeners suggest cinnamon can inhibit root growth, so focus on the soil surface rather than burying it deep or applying directly to roots. Cinnamon works best with proper plant watering and good airflow. It's not a magic bullet if conditions remain overly damp and humid. Janet Sellers is an avid, lazy gardener, using simple, natural ways to support gardening efforts all year. Contact her at janetsellers@ocn.me. Art Matters, How Gen Z Influences Our Cultural and Financial Future. By Janet Sellers. If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of the potential for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility doesn't. And what wine is so sparkling, what so fragrant, what's so intoxicating, as a possibility? Søren Kierkegaard. One wonders about the future of cultural expression and its direction. Our next generation of economic interest seems to rest with the up-and-coming generation, Gen Z. I found some good news for handmade arts from the National Library of Medicine. Gen Z values experiences. They enjoy visiting galleries and museums, attending a live painting session, or participating in an artist-led workshop, as these provide a sense of engagement that online interactions lack. Gen Z are the art collectors of the future. They are the social demographic born between 1997 and 2012, in the age range now of 13 to 28 years old. Not just a trend but a way of life, they make their aesthetic impressions on things, including fashion, home decor, and entertainment, and brands are taking notice. You could say that more than previous generations, Gen Z prizes experiences over material possessions. Having grown up as digital natives in a world where they feel the need to be financially prudent, they are also more economically and socially prudent. These are the ones that have grown up in a digital world and seamlessly blend traditional art forms with innovation, including digital forms and even artificial intelligence. Yet, they are socially conscious and generally hold socially progressive views, advocate for equality, and are concerned with sustainability and climate change. They value job stability, are less prone to impulse buying, and research extensively before purchasing, often preferring flexible, purpose-driven work over traditional corporate ladders. A comprehensive U.S. government report on arts participation across generations shared detailed data showing that Gen Z and millennials report the highest arts participation rates, both attending and creating art. Their broader generational report focused on trust, cultural engagement, community participation, and niche aesthetics for Gen Z. This understanding reveals how identity and subcultures shape artistic preferences. Younger collectors differ in interests, with Gen Z showing higher engagement in digital art, film/video art, and diverse collectibles compared with older generations. Survey data on where Gen Z buys art, digital platforms versus traditional auction houses, show how this generation's preferences differ from legacy collectors. WokeWaves magazine reports that this generation of creatives is consumers exposed to vast amounts of information and diverse perspectives from a young age, which accelerates their creative development. Platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok have democratized content creation, allowing Gen Z to reach global audiences and gain recognition for their talents without traditional gatekeepers. Immersion in digital culture seems to integrate creative activity into daily life more than previous generations. Media platforms that didn't exist a generation prior offer constant creative input and stimulation, creating a fluidity amid a wide variety of art forms, from traditional to the newest cutting-edge trends, and with the market changing into an online market. This is causing traditional markets to embrace and adapt. The projected value of the online art market is expected to reach a staggering $17.76 billion by 2030, driven largely by this generation's engagement. They are strong and active in reshaping the creative art landscape. That sounds like good news for art, artists, and our creative cultural future. Janet Sellers is an artist, writer, and speaker, communicating how art matters for our social, cultural, and financial well-being. Contact her at janetsellers@ocn.me. Our Community Notices. By Janet Sellers. Although we strive for accuracy in these listings, dates or times are often changed after publication. Please double-check the time and place of any event you wish to attend by calling the information number for that event. Please notify us if your event listing needs to be updated. El Paso County Property Protection Program. El Paso County has launched a new property protection program to help prevent fraudulent deed transfers and real estate scams. The program alerts property owners whenever a document is filed using their name on any property, so owners can quickly verify whether the filing is legitimate or the result of attempted fraud. Residents may register multiple name variations and household members. At this time, the program can only monitor filings made after you enroll, but officials are exploring options to expand coverage. Property records can also be reviewed in person at the county clerk and recorder's office. To learn more or register, visit the El Paso County Clerk and Recorder's Property Protection Program webpage. For more information on the PPP program, go to this link, https://clerkandrecorder.elpasoco.com/recording/property-protection. Do not remove trailblazes/markers. You will be seeing some trail markers in Fox Run Regional Park on trees. The trail markers help protect the delicate forest ecosystem because we can stay on the trail and not damage the ecosystem underneath our feet or with bicycles or horses, etc. These are traditional trail markers, especially useful and necessary in snowy, icy weather when we cannot see the actual trail. Our high desert forest climb is dependent on its skin of soil and plants to survive. When we honor this part of the forest we cannot see, the part we can see has a better chance to thrive amid us humans, the invasive species. Palmer Lake parking restrictions during snow. When there is an accumulation of 2 inches or more of snow, the parking restrictions are in effect. No person may stop, stand, or park any vehicle on any portion of a snow route, or leave, abandon, or permit to remain stalled any vehicle, which is stalled on any portion of a snow route and must take immediate action to park the vehicle lawfully. Parked vehicles must be removed from all streets within the town, including those which are not designated snow routes. Parking information details: www.townofpalmerlake.com/pw/page/parking-restrictions-during-snow. Palmer Lake requirement to keep sidewalks and adjacent areas clean. It is the duty of all owners or occupants of every premises to keep the entire area between a. the edge of the sidewalk closest to the building and b. the gutter free and clear of snow, ice, mud, dirt, debris, rubbish, and filth. The area to be cleared includes, but not be limited to, the sidewalks and curbs in front of the building, graveled areas, bricked areas, and areas around planters, benches, trees and bushes. The area to be cleared does not include flower beds, elevated planting areas, or other similar elevated areas. The area to be cleared must be cleared of snow and ice within 24 hours following the snowfall or accumulation of a snowdrift or ice. Details of the town requirements: townofpalmerlake.com. Black ice safety. If you hit black ice, stay calm, ease off the gas, and steer gently in the direction of the skid, avoiding sudden braking or sharp turns. Use light, steady pressure on the brakes, or pump them if you don't have ABS, to slow down, and aim for areas with more traction like snow or sand if possible, as the goal is to let the vehicle slow down naturally and regain control. Traction law requirements in effect September 1st to May 31st. Colorado's winter traction law allows tire socks, like auto sock, as an approved alternative to chains, especially during severe storms when the passenger vehicle chain law, Code 15, is enacted, requiring devices for all vehicles unless equipped with specific winter tires, M+S/Mountain Snowflake, and adequate tread, with hefty fines for noncompliance. All vehicles must have a minimum 3/16 inch tread depth on all tires, plus one of these on all tires, winter tires, Mountain Snowflake Icon, all-weather rated tires, or mud and snow tires. School bus safety. Drivers who pass a stopped school bus with its stop arm extended and flashing lights constitute a dangerous and life-threatening violation of traffic laws. In Colorado, you must stop for a school bus with flashing red lights and an extended stop arm, stopping at least 20 feet away, unless you are on the opposite side of a highway divided by a physical, raised, or depressed median, b. on a 2-lane road or one where painted lines, but no physical barrier, separate lanes, you must still stop. c. after stopping, you must remain stopped until the bus's lights stop flashing and it begins to move again. Colorado school buses are increasingly being equipped with automated stop arm cameras to record and catch drivers who illegally pass a stopped school bus. Recent legislation allows for the installation and use of these systems by school districts. Academy School District 20 in Colorado uses school bus cameras, including the stop arm camera system and interior cameras, to enhance student safety and to document drivers who pass a stopped school bus with flashing lights and an extended stop arm. Car seat update. Parents can visit carsetscolorado.com to locate a nearby car seat inspection station, register their car seat and learn how to properly install their car seat or booster seat. If you can't afford a car seat for your child, Run, We Cycle, Children's Hospital Colorado, and Safe Kids Colorado Springs have programs through which families can get a free or low-cost car seat. Visit their websites for more information. El Paso County Trailability Program. Terrain hoppers in the nature centers at Fountain Creek and Bear Creek areas are off-road mobility vehicles that allow members of the El Paso County community and visiting guests with disabilities to experience trails previously inaccessible to them. Hike 1 to 3 miles through foothills and wetlands habitats with your friends, family, and a nature center staff or volunteer, May through October. Reservations required, participation is free. https://communityservices.elpasoco.com/trailability/. For more information on the Trailability program, please contact Teresa Odello at 719-520-6981 or by email at thereseodello@elpasoco.com. Tri-Lakes Cares needs your support. Tri-Lakes Cares is the only food pantry and human services organization serving northern El Paso County through emergency relief and self-sufficiency programs. The community-based, volunteer-supported center is a critical resource for our neighbors in need. The best way to help support Tri-Lakes Cares is to donate. Visit https://tri-lakescars.org/donate to learn how to donate money, medical items, personal supplies, or food. Please check the web for current needs in our food pantry at https://tri-lakescars.org/donate/current-needs. Donation drop-off hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information about Tri-Lakes Cares or how you can help, contact Tri-Lakes Cares at 719-481-4864 or info@tri-lakescares.org. Black Forest Log School needs your help. Please help preserve the historic school for another 103 years. New exterior damage was discovered. It has exceeded the budget renovation funds. Friends of the Black Forest Log School, a 501c3 corporation, appreciates your donation. Please send a check or bring cash to Black Forest Community Foundation, 6770 Shoup Road, Black Forest, Colorado 90808. www.beeflogschool.com. Get help in Larkspur. Larkspur Church has a food bank and care center that offer a good variety of non-perishable food items, as well as clothing for men, women, and children, some household items available too. We're here to help. If you are in need, or know someone who is, please reach out to Jeff at gethelp@larkspur.church. If you would like to donate, contact Jeff by the same email to arrange a pickup. Thank you for joining us for the audio versions of the articles and columns from this issue of OCN. To dive into the full articles and columns or explore more content, visit ocn.me. Don't miss out, sign up for our community newsletter to stay updated with every new post.